All right, hello and welcome to Giant Spotlight. Thank you for listening wherever you get your podcast today. We do have to discuss that there is breaking news that Gabe Kapler is fired and is leaving the San Francisco Giants organization, which is big. There is a lot to get into there, and we are going to get right into it. But we also have to discuss the fact that the Giants have been eliminated from playoff contention and have been eliminated for the second straight season, which all ties back into Gabe Kapler. So we're going to get to that right now because this is important. This is a big deal. So Kapler, we know, has been the manager for about 4 years now. When he came in 2020, 2019, 20, I think it was around 2020 when he came in and he started coaching. And we had seen, a bad season in 2020, but a big rebound to 2021 where they won 107 games, and it was great and it was magical. And then from there on out, it's been a downward spiral to a place where the Giants have missed the postseason twice now, and it hasn't looked any better. There's a lot to talk about right there because it was, just a normal Friday. Everyone's at their jobs, everyone's working, and you hear the news that Farhan has let go of Kapler. And I was honestly shocked because Farhan and Kapler for a while now have been a package deal. And when they came to San Francisco, Farhan had said throughout the year and throughout this year and last year and the year before that they're a package deal and they work together. And so that kind of was shocking to me to see Kapler leave. I didn't think he was going to leave. I didn't think they were going to let go of him. But apparently, it seems to me that Farhan did not see Gabe Kapler in the future of Giants baseball, that's a big deal. I mean, you're talking about a guy who led them to 107 wins, but you also have to discuss all of the things that go into that. So we're going to be today getting into, the main thing of that Gabe Kapler is gone and what is the reason for that? Why might that have been? And we're going to come back to this question on a later day where we're actually going to be going in depth of what Farhan is possibly looking for the Giants' future. We're going to look into what he said about the team, what he said for the future, and all of the things that he expects Giants baseball to be. We're going to get into that another day, but today we're just going to get into the thick of it. There's a lot of clubhouse drama, as you might have heard. There is players that are upset with other players because they don't feel like they're taking it seriously. There's players that are just honestly in the clubhouse not preparing for the games, and there's players who have that frustration for those other guys who are in the clubhouse playing cards, not getting ready, and there are a few people to be named there especially. And so you hear this news come out and it's kind of interesting, so you hear some of the players' complaints. Specifically, they weren't named, but you could think of the people because the people who voiced their complaints were Yastrzemski, Estrada, Wilmer Flores. There's probably others in that group, but those were the main ones that voiced their frustration for the team. And, you had these guys, I mean, maybe not as so much Estrada, but the other guys who were there for the 2021 season where 107 wins, it was big. These guys are guys who, after a game, after a loss, they focus on the next game. Who's going to be pitching next? How can we prepare for this game? How can we prepare for the pitcher? What should we be focusing on? They're the ones getting ready before a game. And they were upset with certain Giants players in the clubhouse who happened to be, after a loss, not taking it as seriously as it should have been, considering that they would come into the clubhouse and there's a bunch of upbeat music and it's just all hype. It's not the feeling that you lost. It's the feeling that you won. But you come in there after a loss and there's upbeat music. Guys are playing card games. They're not focusing. They aren't getting into what is going to be the next day. They aren't focusing on what the pitcher is going to be the next day. They aren't getting prepared. And, there are guys to be named there as well. You have people like Peterson, Mitch Haniger, J.D. Davis, and maybe some of the other young people who were involved in those card games and in those things that were going on during the time of losses and stretches where the Giants weren't playing good. And that's tough to see because you're seeing a clubhouse be divided actively, and that can't lead to a good team chemistry that's going to be going on the field and working together for a win. And it's also not going to help that you have the guys who are trying to prepare for the next game, and then you have the other guys who are not preparing at all, and they will come into the next game and they will strike out 4 times and they won't do well. So that's to mention that. That's kind of the build up to, I think, why we might be seeing Gabe Kapler being dismissed as the Giants manager and being let go despite being signed till that 2024 season. He was fired and he is not going to be with the Giants any longer. But it's kind of interesting to me because you have those players and you have that clubhouse setting where those guys are divided, where there is frustration between players because some people aren't taking it seriously enough and others are just messing around, and then there's others who are trying to take it seriously. And it's tough to see that because as a fan, you go out there watching the games and you want to see a team that's going to win, see a team that's going to produce on the field. And if you see your team lose a series and it's a bad series, they didn't play to their fullest, they weren't playing as well as they had been in the past, you would hope that they would be motivated to be able to move forward and to be able to work to get better so they can produce what's on the field, so they can produce for their team to get their team a win. That's a winning culture. Right now, this team doesn't have a winning culture. So as a fan, you go there just to see your team lose because it's almost expected of them. And now you feel like you don't have any, you didn't get your money's worth. And plus, that's just a disrespect to the fans. I think fans have a right to be frustrated. But you're hearing all this stuff coming out of the clubhouse. You're hearing voiced frustrations after the Giants were eliminated and missed playoff contention yet again when they had so much working for them earlier in the season to keep them in playoff contention. They were in the top spot in the wild card, and they totally lost it. They totally dropped out, and they gave up. So what's to discuss here? Why is Gabe Kapler getting fired? And I believe it's because they need a change of leadership. They need a change of culture within the clubhouse, and Gabe Kapler is not providing that. It's apparent to me that, Gabe Kapler, he led us to that big season, that historic season that we always talk about. But we got to focus on the recents, and that's the last 2 seasons where we've been at 500, and now we're under 500. And we're going to be under 500 this season because we're actively losing to the Dodgers, and the only way to get back to 500 was to sweep them, which is not going to happen. So there's that. And we're going to look at now where Gabe Kapler, it appears to me that as a manager, you should have control over your clubhouse and you should be the one leading and providing that culture there within the clubhouse. And what it looks to me is you have this losing culture where the team is messing around. They are not being productive, or at certain players, I shouldn't say the team as a whole. Certain players are messing around and not doing what they should be doing to provide a win for the next day. And it shows me that Gabe Kapler did not have control of this clubhouse. He didn't have control of the guys, and it led to them doing what they wanted to at the expense of the team. And now here we are where there's some frustrations, there's division within the clubhouse, there are frustrations within the front office as well. And Farhan, I think to address this, he talked on KNBR yesterday, and this is where it kind of all broke down because he talked on KNBR yesterday. They asked about Kapler. He gave sort of an unsure response, which isn't common due to his always support of Kapler and that they are a package deal. They work together and they are going to be here for the Giants franchise. His answer yesterday foreshadowed what he was going to do today. And there is a chairman of the Giants who also said, he gave another unsure answer of Gabe Kapler, proving that he was going to leave and he was not going to see his place within the Giants franchise. And I wish the best for him and I hope he does well in life. But right here, I honestly believe it was the right move. I mean, with the way everything is, with the way the clubhouse is, with the way the guys are, you need a new guy in there who's going to provide a new culture and a new clubhouse vibe and a winning team for the Giants, for Giants fans. That's the whole point of this whole organization and operation, to give this team a World Series and playoff chance. And when you do that, more fans will come. Obviously, attendance has been at an all-time low. And, it's because we're missing the playoffs. It's because we expect a lot out of our team, and we are not getting those expectations met. So here we are, and our team is losing, and they're not making it. And they're playing card games when they've lost and they aren't getting prepared for the next game. How do we as fans feel about that? Well, we kind of are pissed off because now we're looking and we're seeing that there's just not a will to win for the team. So right now, I think the right move was to get rid of Kapler. And I think now it's going to be up to what Farhan has said. Farhan has said multiple things. He has said, and he has admitted to some faults. We've talked about the problem with the platoon system and the ever-changing lineup, and he, in recent days, has said that in this offseason, he is going to focus on putting a more continuous lineup in, getting more guys who are going to be playing every day, so you have continuity within the lineup. You're going to know who you're going to get. You're going to know you're going to have players who are going to be playing every day. You're going to have those kinds of guys in the lineup. It's not going to be a full platoon system, and you're going to have a good lineup. And hopefully, if we're able to pick up an impact bat, you're going to have a solid lineup with an impact bat or two thrown in there to give it, a normal lineup, not a changing lineup that's changing literally 1 through 9 every single day. You have to have some people who are in there every day because these are the guys you're going to heavily rely on. Those are the 1 through 4, the 1 through 5. And now, he is admitting that he is going to look to do that in the offseason. And a part of that is that he's going to also find a new manager. And he said this, he wants to find a manager before the offseason. And I think that's a wise decision because if you don't have a manager, how are you going to attract players to a place where it feels like they are not prepared for the next season? They aren't going to want to come here. It's also due to the fact that if you get a manager who has some connections to certain players, it might be easier to bring some over, especially if it's a manager that has a good track record and people are familiar with. And I think it's going to be important that he gets a manager who runs that new lineup like he wants it. Farhan has said he wants that continuous lineup. So what does that mean, right? I think it's going to be a 1 through 4, or maybe even just certain players who are in every day and are going to provide impact talent and impact, good and above average offense and good defense to the team. And they're going to be those, whether they're star players or they're just players who are going to be solid producers on the field, you're going to have those kinds of people. So he's probably going to look for a manager who's going to run the lineup that way and who's going to keep it that way as he wants it. And I think, Gabe Kapler is not what he was having in mind for that. And due to the clubhouse struggles, you also have to keep in mind that Gabe Kapler had kind of lost control of this clubhouse, as it appears right now. And that's from the reports that we've gotten from Susan Slusser and other people. It shows to me that he's looking for someone who's going to have that clubhouse on lock, who's going to provide that winning culture for the team and give him and help him form that lineup that is going to be so important for the 2024 season for Giants baseball, because we've already missed out on the playoffs twice now, and fans, they're kind of getting restless. I know I am, and I know I'm ready for us to go back to the playoffs. I know I'm ready for us to do better, and overall, I'm excited for the Giants. I'm always excited to watch baseball, and as a fan, I think a lot of people are, but you have to know that you want to know that your team is good and they are going to do everything they can to win and make it to the playoffs. That is the goal of baseball, so you can get to the World Series and win the World Series. That's the reason you play 162 games, is so that eventually you can have a good enough record to make it into the playoffs or win your division to have a chance to go on to win the World Series. And it looks like with the way our current players and managers were set up, it just did not look like they were even looking at that opportunity. So right now, that's what's going on, but we're going to dive deeper into it another day. Thank you for listening to Giant Spotlight wherever you get your podcast. Have a wonderful day.